I'm Brian Funderburk, Rowlett City Manager. Welcome to the final edition of Spotlight on Rowlett with Mayor Tammy Dana-Bashian. The format of today's episode is going to be a little different. Instead of the usual show where we present local news and discuss activities in Rowlett, I'm going to interview our mayor about her time on the Rowlett City Council and find out what the future holds for her. Are you ready to get started, Mayor?
I am. I tell you, when I started this mayor position 5 years ago, this was the one item I was most nervous about, was videoing, and I think this is the one item I'm going to miss the most.
Well, there you go. So it has been fun,
right? It has been challenging, but fun. Challenging. Seeing yourself on camera is difficult.
Yep. All right, well, let's start at the beginning. So you've served on council since 2013. What inspired you to run for council almost a decade ago?
It all started with my childhood and my father. He was incredibly influential in my life and a community servant in the town where I grew up in. And he took me along with him everywhere he went and just did so much for the community and instilled into me the desire to get involved and serve the community. And, I had no intentions in getting involved in city government. I was involved in the schools through PTA and booster clubs. I was involved in my church, very involved in my church. I was very involved in Boy Scouts. And I like to tell this story. I was driving down Highway 66, taking my youngest son to baseball practice. And he kept peppering me with questions on how things worked for the city and how things worked for the state and how things worked nationally. And I got this bright idea. Let's not just tell him, let's show him. And that's where it all started.
So you've been through this with the city through several events that changed the lives of our citizens. The 2015 tornado as Deputy Mayor Pro Tem. Then as mayor, you guided the city through the 2021 weather event and the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. What are the toughest and most rewarding things about being mayor during extreme times like that?
Helping people, interacting with people, communing with people is hands down easily the most rewarding thing. The tornado was so traumatic, and I would go home and couldn't get to sleep, had a little bit of PTSD like a lot of people did, and I wasn't even greatly affected. I just saw so much pain and suffering in the community. So it was extremely rewarding during that time period to be able to lend a hand and to see how the community came together. You asked me what's most challenging, I think is the word you use. That's a really easy answer right now, the politics. City government, city business is not supposed to be political. It should be nonpartisan, and in this time and age, in the last couple of years, it's really become a difficult environment to work in, as has state government and national politics. So that's been the most challenging.
Mayor, during the tornado, one thing I really appreciated about you is that, you'll remember we had 1,300 homes and businesses that were damaged, many of them permanently and irreparably. Not to mention the impact of that many residents without access to their homes. And I remembered, it might have been on day 2, if not day 3, but the one gap that we really felt like we had, I remember you feeling like we had, is that we weren't reaching out to our citizens enough and providing enough assistance to them. And you came to me and said, put me in, coach. There's got to be something I can do. And I remember telling you at the time, Tammy, the one thing that I cannot free my staff for or to get to do is to set up a center like maybe at the RCC where people can come in and get resources, get help, get information, those that were more mobile. And I remember telling you that, I would love for you to do it. I can't help you with it. All I can do is tell you, here's what we need, and I need you to help figure out the how. And you did. Yeah. It was amazing. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, gosh, it seems so long ago now. There's been so many things happen, in our lives and in this community since then. But that was a very rewarding effort. You know, a lot of citizens finally knew where to go to get help, and they all came to the community center, and they all had different needs, and you had to figure out how to get resources and how to hand out resources, and all of a sudden everybody had my phone number that needed something, so that was interesting. One of the things that I learned, well, we learned a lot from the tornado, right?
Yes.
a lot of things we learned. But one of the things I learned in that resource center is the biggest need is socks and underwear. And not used ones, new ones. And don't ever take used ones. So that's an interesting memory that I have. But you know, just people walking into that community center, getting a few of their needs met, but more importantly, we were able to sit down and hear their stories. It was very, very important at that time that you spent time with people and let them tell their story, because it was a traumatic experience for so many.
You know, and at that point, by that time, a lot of people didn't have access to their technology anymore. Their batteries had run out of their phones and iPads and whatever, even if they had electronic access. So having that personal touch was just so important.
You know, one of the most rewarding things was, you know, going out into the community and turning off the water. Whitney Lanning and Blake Margolis, two other council members, are, you know, very, very active in CERT and, you know, the community help in that area. And they said, you want to go with us, Mayor? And I was like, I jumped on it. And we spent a day out there turning off water. And that was so wonderful to be able to get out into the community and help them in that way too.
In 0-degree weather.
It was interesting.
So Sapphire Bay, our $1 billion mixed-use development on Lake Ray Hubbard, is currently under construction. Your tenacious leadership has helped guide the development and its amenities, ensuring Sapphire Bay will bring visitors to Rowlett from around the country. Why is this so important to you, and how do you feel Sapphire Bay will enhance our future?
Well, I think first and foremost is, you know, increase in tax base and diversification of tax base. This community has been largely a residential community for as long as, you know, you and I have been here, and way before that. And there's a lot of risk involved with that in regards to being able to provide the correct infrastructure and services that your community needs when you're so focused in one area. So diversification of tax base is absolutely critical. And just the increase in the tax base will help provide immeasurable resources that we need as a community. And then, you know, one of the things that early in my tenure, I think on city council, not necessarily tenure as mayor, one of the things I felt like this community really needed was an identity. And we had an identity of a, you know, a bedroom community. People leave in the morning, they come back at night. And, you know, Sapphire Bay really gives us an opportunity to have a very distinctive identity. And I think that's a very important thing for a community. And certainly it's going to bring in the tourism and the jobs and the tax base I've already talked about. There's so many important things about Sapphire Bay.
Well, Mayor, you hit on a really interesting concept, and that is that the old adage used to be that Rowlett was its own best tourism, because you didn't come here if you didn't know somebody. And now with Sapphire Bay, it will put us definitely on the map, and it will attract people from all over the country, and therefore we will become a destination location. So it's a very interesting future Rowlett holds here.
Absolutely.
Something near and dear to you is our veteran population. You established the Rowlett Veteran Recognition Program and advocated for the creation of the Veterans Resource and Outreach Center. Why was this initiative important to you?
I remember having a discussion with you about this very early in my mayoral tenure. And you know, you gave me some really good advice. You said every mayor needs to put a stamp on, you know, their term and when they're serving in their mayoral term. And I brought this idea to you, and you said you thought, you know, that would be a great stamp legacy. I hate to use that word because it's not about me. I did a lot of soul searching to decide to run for mayor originally. And then once I was elected as mayor, I did a lot of soul searching of where I wanted to help take the city. And the Veterans Recognition Program was something that I developed and thought of, and partnered with you and Brian Wilburn, and thank you, Brian Wilburn, for so much work in this area. And it was just, I've done a lot of celebrating of residents in my tenure, and to me, the veterans deserved this recognition. And a lot of them were getting up in age. We had some World War II veterans. And I felt like we were losing the ability to celebrate them if we waited much longer. So I just thought it was a great way to celebrate our very, very best residents that we have in our community that have served us so well in our country.
It's interesting. I mean, it's almost taken on a life of its own, because once we said, hey, we're thinking about doing it this way and that way, other people had ideas. Well, what if we did this and what if we did that? And those pieces got added, relatively early in the program. But it's not just the idea that you came up with, but you also shepherded that process and helped make it what it is. And just it's not just the joy, I should say, of the veterans that are being recognized. It's their families and their
absolutely.
friends. And when you watch that, particularly from our angle, it's just an amazing experience.
And it's other veterans, even if they're not the ones being recognized, they're celebrating this very, very important celebration for all of us. And what memories we have had. I can think back to so many of them, and just have been great memories.
Outside the city limits, you've been an advocate for our citizens. You've served as a member of the executive board of the North Central Texas Council of Governments. You also served as treasurer of the Dallas Regional Mobility Coalition and attended the U.S. Conference of Mayors, just to name a few accomplishments. But your advocacy for Rowlett residents with the North Texas Municipal Water District stands as a highlight, and certainly is one that I remember. Where does our journey towards more equitable water rates stand today?
I think journey is the operative word there. You and I have fought this battle for a long time, and it's certainly good news that we have made some progress in this area. The take-or-pay contract is a very difficult thing for the city of Rowlett, as well as some other cities in the district. But we finally made some headway, and we finally got our voice heard. And we got our voice heard by creating a coalition and advocacy, and making sure that we were advocating for the residents of Rowlett. And we had some help from some residents. So it was a journey. Journey is absolutely the right word. I personally am a little disappointed and frustrated that there's such a long period for us to get to where we need to go. But we have a path now, and we can see what the end will look like, and it's absolutely positive for the city or the citizens of Rowlett. So we have gone from one of the highest water rate cities in the district to we're in the middle now. So there's a lot of things we have done, and it's very important for our community and very important for our citizens. So I think there's hope at the end of the rainbow.
Yes, there is. Thank you, Mayor. We're both numbers people, and I think this is one of the reasons why we work so well together. Do you think your finance background helped you to guide the city through its annual budget process?
Well, no doubt. I mean, this is a budgeting is a complex process for a city. You've taught me so much. I didn't know municipal government. I didn't know municipal finance when I came in to my city council position. So you helped me guide through that, and that was very helpful. Thank you. But yeah, budgeting's a little complex, and I think the city council has had somewhat of a comfort level knowing that I was involved in the budget process, because they see the kind of questions I ask. They see the detailed analysis that your folks have already done, but there's somebody on city council also doing that. And it's been rewarding to watch the other members of the finance committee really get up to speed on finance when they don't even have that background. So that's been a rewarding process.
You know, Mayor, one thing that I have been so appreciative of, particularly, you know, since the Great Recession, is the kind of questions that you ask, and you know, and it's not, you know, it is a complex process, but it's also, you know, the recognition, and I think I saw this pretty early on, is that this isn't just a numbers exercise. This is not Sudoku.
No.
You know, this is a policy document. This is the council exerting its will on where they want to allocate our scarce resources to meet the challenges that this community faces. And, you know, I think you just did such a fantastic job with that and brought real strengths to the council.
Well, as a finance person, you know, you and I both know it's not necessarily about the numbers, it's about the substance behind the numbers.
So in 2019, the City Council established the Rowlett Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission, which was formed to enhance our community by celebrating and fostering mutual respect, integrity, and fairness for all. Can you tell our viewers why that commission was so important to you and how their activities are making a difference in Rowlett?
There's no doubt that the work of the Diversity, Equity, DE&I Commission is probably one of my proudest accomplishments in the city. They have done such incredible work. And, you know, I was extremely involved at the beginning of the formation of that, but they're running with it all themselves now. And, you know, it's been a maturation process, but it's been really rewarding to see where they've come and where they want to go and what a difference they're making with their quality work that they're doing with DE&I. You know, this community's changing, and they're helping our residents understand that. And it can be painful, and it can be a process that not everybody necessarily wants to go through, but it's an important process. And, you know, we all know what happened this summer when I, you know, did the Pride Proclamation and lit the water tower. And the most rewarding thing about that was there were so many people that came forward that never felt like they were a part of this community and finally felt like they were a part of this community. And that has just been wonderful to see. So I look forward to many, many more years of successful work by DE&I, and that this community is going to benefit from that.
So what are some of the future challenges you see for this community?
You know, I think the biggest challenge today is no different than the challenges this community has faced for decades. And you know, it's growing pains. It's growth in the DFW Metroplex. It's being a suburb so close to Dallas that we get that growth, but we have a need and a desire to not necessarily change as fast as the environment is happening around us. And so you get that tug of war of, you know, we have to evolve and we have to be able to meet the times, but we have this beautiful community that so many love and want to retain all the best parts of that community. We think, when we're in the moment, we think this has got to be, you know, the most difficult time for Rowlett. Well, you've told me many times about the difficult times when DART was being voted on twice. And, you know, the split in the community with bringing DART in or not bringing DART in, and, you know, what Rowlett was decades ago has evolved so much. So, you know, I think that's the biggest challenge is being able to grow and grow at a pace that is manageable and that doesn't alienate our residents, current residents, and doesn't lose the character of our community. And, you know, that's why we work so hard to make sure we make this a hometown feel of a community.
You know, you raise a good point, Mayor, you know, we've heard from so many new people who have maybe only been here a couple years that have actually gotten on some of our boards and commissions. And they talk about how much they love Rowlett and how excited they are to be here. And then you hear from some of the people who've been here their whole lives, 30, 40, 50 years, and you can see how they feel about what they believe they're giving up. So it's, the dichotomy there is very interesting, but yet it is one that's very traditional in a community that is growing so fast.
Right. So, you know, I think that's the biggest challenge. Certainly we got the infrastructure challenges and the tax base challenges, but those are easy answers, or easy to talk about, I should say. You know, keeping your culture in a high growth environment is difficult.
So you've left a lasting legacy of exemplary leadership, individual involvement, community growth, and economic development progress in Rowlett. What does the future hold for you? What is your next step?
Well, you opened up the program saying this is our last spotlight on Rowlett, so you teased it a little. I have announced my retirement 2 months early. I almost made it all the way to May. And I have bought a residence in a resort retirement community in Arizona. And as of the end of February, I will no longer have a Rowlett residence. So I am forced to resign, retire, because you have to have a Rowlett residence to maintain a position as mayor or a position as city council. So I'm just going to miss 4 meetings, and I'm going to stay in touch, but I'm going to do something that I've always dreamed of, which is go play the rest of my life. And when I ran for mayor my second term, you know, was shortly after my mother died and my husband died. See if I can say this without breaking down. And I said to myself then, you know, 2 or 3 years, I need to take that time to heal and service this city. But after that period of time, I need to figure out my next stage of life. And my next stage of life is going to play. I'm going to play a lot of pickleball. I'm going to play a lot of golf. I'm going to you know, converse with the rest of the retirees in my resort retirement community and hopefully have a good rest of my life.
So we're looking forward to World Championship Pickleball on CNN.
At my age, that'll never happen, but you know, I play 7 days a week. I play 2 or 3 tournaments a month. So I'm pretty involved in it, but no, I will never get to that stage.
All right, very good. If you could be remembered for one thing as mayor of Rowlett, what would it be?
You know, I think that I represented all citizens of Rowlett, and that I was able to help facilitate a voice for certain citizens that never had a voice before me. And I think that's what I want to be remembered for.
Would you like to share any other closing thoughts?
I'm going to miss this community so much. You know, this was not necessarily my plan. If my husband was still alive, I don't think I'd be leaving because he had community also. But I need to figure out the next stage in life, and but I'll be watching and seeing what happens, and I better be the first one in that fountain when Sapphire Bay fountain is done, and there's just a large foundation that we have built, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what comes out of that foundation. And then I'd just like to say thank you to the citizens. You know, they have provided friendship and support for so many years. And my fellow council members, it's been quite a ride. We've had a lot of stability at council during my tenure, and developed great working relationships. And this council today and during my whole tenure, they only want one thing, and that's what's best for Rowlett. And they work tirelessly for the citizens of Rowlett for, you know, very little pay and a lot of hard work, and I'm just so proud of all my fellow city council members, and proud of you and your staff for everything we've been able to accomplish.
Thank you, Mayor. Your contributions to Rowlett are innumerable, and the leadership that you have shown both on the city council as a council member, but then also for this community has just been wonderful. You know, as you and I know, we kind of partnered together on the Customer Coalition, but I will tell you that I truly believe it was your force of will that got these other cities to say, you know, we need to do this. You know, to have our voice, as you said earlier, you know, because we were totally ignored, you know, as a non-member city of the Water District. So on behalf of the city staff, the council, and this community, you will be missed, and we want to thank you for your service.
Thank you, Rowlett.